Budget's always a very subjective term, so when we like to do budget videos on this channel, I like to pull from different categories of numbers and kind of talk about them. So make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss out on my take on budget decks. Budget content never really performs really well on this channel, but I do try to do it every blue moon because that's what players like to see. So let's dig on into top 5 budget decks for 2021 February, shall we? Now, the first deck I want to talk about here is the numeron package. I don't know how well this is going to age because people are starting to look at Zexal right now and they're like, he might get banned next to this. I'm like, Zexal's not really doing anything right now, but you're entitled to your opinion. So, when I look at pure numeron, I think of a couple things here. You kind of want lightning storms and droplets to clear boards, but you don't need them. And here's the thing. If I was on a budget right now, I was looking at this game and I was like, alright, what do I want to do? I would look at the possibility of a numeron package to OTK my opponent. Now you can kind of splash and do whatever else you want with the engine. You can get other creative options to splice into this. But at the end of the day, Kaijus, you hand it over your opponent's monster, and then you go numeron, bird time, mill off your card, special summon an entire army, OTK your opponent. At the end of that combo, we can make Zexal. Alright, which means we can jam out the opponent, we can do whatever we want. Sad downside, you're going to have to pick up Kaijus and other things, but there are some budget Kaijus that you can do. I do think, like quite honestly though, that the numeron package is cheap enough that just being able to go me mill spell card from deck, me OTK you, is really worth looking at in the grand scheme of the game's development at this point in time. Plus, that being said, you can evolve the strategy. Like, that's the biggest thing I'm looking at here is like entry level as you get more money over time. I mean, like, I would assume that if you're starting here, you will evolve on it. You can evolve on the entire concept. It's not an issue. Once again, stepping stones. So, intro piece, we would look at numeron. The engine is so very cheap. You just got to put in some other cards to, get it going. Now, I have to mention Ancient Warriors here. Now, I have zero faith in this deck, and you're probably like, well, then why are you even talking about it, you fat tubble lard? And I'm like, listen, when my comment section starts going, Robbie, this new Ancient Warrior card changes everything. And I'm like, Ancient Warriors didn't do anything beforehand, but alright. So, and then I go ahead and we make another thread today. Different people are talking about how budget Ancient Warriors are. So now I have to go, well, they're talking about it over here. Oh, they're talking about it over here. This new card has to do something for the deck. Maybe I'm uneducated. Maybe I don't know. But for budgetary purposes, yes, Ancient Warriors is one of the cheapest decks that you will find in this game. It's not going to cost you any real money. Well, okay, it's going to cost you a little bit, but nothing too much. And the new card is pretty freaking spicy. But it's going to come down to this. Is it going to be better than some of the other options that are present? I mean, I'd probably rather play 10 Yi over this, and I've seen some disgusting things that those 10 Yi boards can end on. So, it comes down to this. It's getting the mention for me in this video because players are talking about this. And just because I might know what I might not be educated on it, doesn't mean that somebody else might not know, or might know. It comes down to perspective. So, people talking about Ancient Warriors, I'm not quite sure if it's going to live up to the hype. The only thing I can tell you as a market analyst is that the price is very cheap, and if the budget players want a fun deck, I think that's probably going to be one of the coolest approaches that they can look at here. Now, we got to climb up the ladder here. We got to talk about dolls again. So, here's where you cry. Alright, so if you can track down shit all structure decks at something like Walmart, Target, your locals, and they got them for $10, grab them. I think retail value on them online is $20 right now. Now, with that being said, you can probably get away with 2 structure decks maybe buying like 1 or 2 stray cards offline. So you're already at a $40 investment there. Now, we're going to need a Schism. You're not getting, I hate to tell you this, but you're not getting away without playing a Schism. You're going to need 1. You can go with 2, but Schism's currently at a $25 price tag. So if I was kind of stepping on into this, I would start approaching this with 2 structure decks, which at TCG price is $40, and then we would start looking to getting the Schism. You're at 65 right now, plus maybe 1 or 2 extra copies of things from another structure deck that you could probably pick up and or buy locally. So on a price tag of probably, it depends if you want to play hand traps or not, you could probably get in at 70 to 100 on a semi-working Shaddoll deck. Now, if you want to play a Megistus engine, that's obviously going to run you a little bit more. People understand that. Renona is not cheap. Alright, you can also play like Alistair and Friends. It comes down to your flavor and what you want to start with, but you can get in at a very decent entry level of like 70 to $100 on dolls. Alright, so I know, like, different budget levels aside, there are different things that you guys can do. Now, with this being said, I also have to cover prank kids here. Now, prank kids have kind of been falling to the wayside. I mean, obviously, they're not as good at, like, extravaganza events, because, at extravaganza events, they are good. Something like the LCS, it's a little bit different time rules, so you don't really get, like, the same advantage that you would for an extravagance event. So, hit game 3, win by time, because you're prank kids, you already take 20 minutes a frickin' turn, alright, you fully combo your opponent. Game 3 happens, you interrupt your opponent, you're like, take 500, I'll gain life now, monkey strong. Yeah, that's literally the prank kids experience. I do think that, what is it, 3 field spells is $60. You run into the problem that your individual pieces are like dollars now, like Dropsies, Fansies are dollars, so that's going to be a little bit expensive, but heading on up towards like $100 price tag for a deck is not a bad thing. Alright, I've mentioned in previous videos that your trade-off for this deck is your skill level. Like, the deck is massively not skill-friendly at all. Like, you have to go down it's not noob-friendly. You have to go down different skill lines, you have to do different things. There are really cool things that you can do with the deck. So I do think that in terms of budget and things like that, Prank Kids is definitely an option. Now I gotta give an honorable mention here really quick to Salamangreat. Now, when I look at budget decks, Salad is very budget friendly. And I think that the deck is very good, but the general problem with mentioning Salamangreat in this video is Salad's overall presence in the rogue category has gone down. I've seen a lot of budget players that are playing Salad and they're like, I'm done with the deck. Like, the deck is alright, but it's not what it used to do. So everybody's they're yeeting the Salad deck out. So that's where your problem goes to. Salad is still budget, alright? It's still very decent. But players it's not as good as it once was. So keep that in mind. You can go down the Salad budget path, yes. Are you going to get rewarded in competitive play? You're going to have a lot of issues. Also, Access Code Talker is kind of a card that you need. Alright, I really can't be like, you can't really patch the hole that's Access Code in that deck, because you do kind of need it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about for this video is Dragon Link here. Now, for upwards of a full, complete competitive deck, like, besides, like, droplets and things which you don't really need, you're looking at 200 max. Alright, unless you, like, want to start getting, like, fancy with, like, Dragon Maid stuff in it, like, oh, you're like, ooh, I want to play Chambers in my deck. Obviously, you're going to raise your price tag a little bit more, but for budget, complete, ready to go, tier 1, 200 is not a bad number, alright? Like, think about that. staples and everything for 200. You're going to have to master a lot of different skill links, a lot of different link boards that you can make, yes, but at the end of the day, you have a deck that you can play ready to go at about 200. And I think that that's definitely worth covering on Budget Watch, because how many times in the game can you say, oh, I can pick this up for $100 and I'm good to go? I don't know. It doesn't happen all that often. So, guys, make sure you subscribe. Please feel free to leave other budgetary options down below. I know there's like Cyber Dragons, 10Es, all these other options. Yes. All right, some of them need Dragoon, some of them don't need Dragoon. All right, I understand that. But these were the ones that I thought were worth mentioning. There's obviously Tri-Brigade was also mentioned as a budget option, but we mentioned that in like the Rogue video, so I wasn't too sure where I wanted to go about with that. So what do you guys think? Please, like I said, comment down below. Help leave some suggestions for other players that watch this. I might not always cover the best options, but they're the ones I think are worth mentioning. See your beautiful faces back here later in the day. Make sure you guys get the little bell notification on. Beep, beep, beep. Thank you, patrons, for making the ride never truly end. Without you guys' support, well, I would probably be doing Truffle Shuffle videos for a living. Guys, please check out VanCool40 for all of your Cardfight Vanguard content brought to you by MCool40. And if you are looking to pick up singles, check out mcoolgames.com for your trading card game needs. Thanks for watching, everybody.